son sitting thousands of miles away in United States orders a medicine online for a father who's waiting for the medicine and he wants it in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And he can order it thanks to the technology, thanks to you, people like you, that a breakthrough is made and the father gets medicine in time and the son is happy. But it's not always a breakthrough. Sometimes it breaks your heart. And then you say, oh my God, it broke my heart and I'm still grieving. When my father-in-law, he passed away, he could not survive cancer. And in 3 months I saw him going down because he has a bile duct cancer and nothing could be done to save him. Now, the thing is, by the time I finish this TED Talk here, there would be somebody in this world who would have died just because there was no medicine to save that person. There would have been somebody, maybe one of your own father, mother or brother, who would have been frauded online and they would have lost their money. There would have been some soldier sitting on the icy heights of Kargil who probably did not have a technology-enabled equipment and he would have probably lost his life. Ladies and gentlemen, the blood is on our hands. Because today the TED Talk is not about me and what I have done. The TED Talk is about you, each one of you. Because you are the future and the breakthrough that has to come from you. But I want to tell you something more. I'm going to sell yourself to you. The breakthrough has already occurred. I'm sure if I ask you, how many of you are capable of a breakthrough? I think everybody would raise their hands. But if I ask you, that how many of you think would be able to do a breakthrough, probably the number of hands would be less. But let me present you something. 300 million sperms are released during a sexual intercourse. All right, many of you might not be knowing. But only 200 of them are able to reach the fallopian tubes in the ovary and are able to fertilize the egg. Each sperm is different in some way or the other. It's wired differently. And you see, as the world is difficult, it has to pass through the cervical mucus, and half of them are not able to get through because life wants the best. It wants the best sperm to reach the egg. And even egg, when it is released, has around 24 hours to get fertilized. And half of them perish, in general, in nature, by the time a woman misses her next period. Now this sperm goes through the cervix, and then it goes on to the fallopian tubes, and they are so narrow that out of these 300 million sperms, only 10,000 are able to get into either the left or the right uterine tubes. And they are so narrow. Some of them are not very well formed, and by the time they reach the place where they have to attach to the egg, they are further reduced to 300. And then out of them, only one is able to penetrate the zona pellucida, the ovarian cover, and able to get an entry into the egg and fertilize the egg. And the moment it fertilizes the egg, the moment it enters, the zona pellucida is cemented. No further sperm can enter. And the fertilization occurs. Why am I telling you this? Each one of you who's sitting here has come to this world after a struggle. And you are already a breakthrough. The universe has conspired to send the best sperm to fertilize the egg. The best egg has been able to open itself to the sperm. And today, the universe has sent you individually, you are already a breakthrough. So, what can you do? When would that breakthrough come? And that is what we are going to talk about. How can we realize this breakthrough? That we already are. You just have to show up. Ladies and gentlemen, everything you can imagine is real. Pablo Picasso said it many years back. And when you can imagine something, today all the technology breakthroughs that have happened is because people were not already thinking of what is available, but they were thinking of what can be. Because each one of you is different. There's enough in this world for you to show your best. And when your imagination actually realizes that, when you are able to imagine something and the breakthrough happens, only then it becomes a reality. You can see this picture of Leonardo da Vinci. He had imagined in the 15th century that humans can fly. And he had designed a machine that could fly. Because he was not believing what he was seeing. He was actually believing in what he wanted to see, his imagination. And he was a polymath. He actually has to his credit many such inventions. Helicopter, parachute. He designed something. The only thing is some of them, he tried doing it, it failed. But 400 years later, actually the Wright brothers made it possible for humans to fly. So it all starts with an imagination. And then comes the purpose. I often wonder what's so different. We all have the knowledge in the world. We have all got access to Google. We all know we can save money and become rich. We all know that we can go to the gym and become fit. But not many of us are able to do it. It is because sometimes we do what we are expected to do. Sometimes we are told to do what we are supposed to be doing. And we often wonder, what has life got to give me? What you need to see is, what is that you love to do? Because you have been created individually. If suppose you were stranded on an island, and you had everything to you, what would give you pleasure to do? You don't have anybody telling you, no, you ought to be an engineer or you ought to be a doctor. If you want to be a radio jockey, you can also be a radio jockey because it gives you happiness. When you imagine, when you dream, when you pursue what you would like to do to make life happier, only then you break the bounds and you achieve something. So, while purpose is important, your heart should show an ECG like that, because you should fall in love with your purpose. And only when you fall in love with your purpose, then you achieve something. I'm sure some of you might already be in love. Isn't it? I can see a lot of smiles. Is it? When you are in love, you want to get it. No matter what, nothing can come in the way, even at the cost of your life. You want it to happen and it is possible. It happens. Everything falls in place. So when you have a purpose and you fall in love with it, nothing can stop you. So fall in love with your purpose. I told you about so many things that are happening around in the world. If you want to make a breakthrough, look at the bump. Obstacle is the way. The bump is your trump. Not the trump that you all know. But I'm talking of the trump card. So, how can artificial intelligence help in predicting cancer? How can it help in reducing the carbon footprints? There is immense amount of possibilities. Look at the bump, because bump can be your trump. That is what has actually made people achieve breakthroughs in life. All progress depends on unreasonableness. Because reasonable people have reasonable lives. Unreasonable people have the entire world to themselves. That is what George Bernard Shaw said. If you want to be a clone, that's fine. But when you are unreasonable, Einstein said that the progress has happened only because of unreasonable people in the world. Challenge your thoughts. Be unreasonable. And show. And for doing that, you have to unshackle your minds. You have to think differently. And how can you do that? In 1971, the war with Pakistan and East Pakistan was won because somebody thought differently. Somebody unshackled the mind. If you go back into the history, Operation Cactus Lily, when overnight 600 people of brigade level strength crossed Meghna River in Bangladesh and surprised the enemy. Why? Because the helicopter which was used, which was a Me-4, people did something unthinkable. The first heliborne operations in the night were undertaken by that helicopter, and people flew across. Somebody thought that the mold which is growing in a petri dish where the bacteria are there is actually stopping the bacteria. What could be the possibility? Unshackle the mind, and that is why we got antibiotic, penicillin. Of course, it was discovered in 1928, but it found its purpose, and the breakthrough came in 1940 during the Second World War. Two things you will encounter. One is fear, and the other one is failure. Today, we are thinking of going to the Mars. Do you think how that person would have felt when he was sent to the space for the first time? He overcame the fear. We have won so many operations, we have done so many things, only because somebody was able to overcome the fear. When you go to the fear runs away from you. I'm sure you can relate to the first time you went to swim. You thought you would not survive. Somebody pushed you into the swimming pool, and then you were worried whether I would be able to survive. Then you started flapping your arms and hands and legs, and you survived. And then you wanted to become a better swimmer. Overcoming the fear is the way. And then the world sees a possibility. The other thing is failure. Every failure is a step towards progress. It's not me saying, it's Einstein who said. Every fear pushes you further, because every failure that happens is something which tells you that, okay, this is not to be done, and there is a next step. So there are so many failures, but after every failure, you push the boundary towards the success. So we have to overcome that. And that is how today this picture of Bruce McCandless floating in the space is actually without a tether. He has given hopes, he has pushed the boundaries. You need to be curious. A guy who was actually, George Marshall, his name was, when he came back after a walk in the Alps, he found that there are burr seeds sticking to his legs and his dog's coat. He saw it under the microscope. Why is it not coming out? And he found they had minor hooks. And he was curious. He made connections. And that is how he was able to connect and come up with an invention which is the Velcro. Today everyone uses Velcro. You have to be curious, you have to make connections. For that you need transdisciplinary knowledge that can help you. You have to persist. The king of the jungle, every 5 times he makes an attempt, he wins only one. If I were to tell you that, okay, you will fail 4 times out of 5 times, how would you feel? Every startup that wants to become a unicorn, only on 10% of them survive. But the people who actually are able to make a difference are those who know, okay, 10th time I will succeed. And that is how they succeed. Be persistent in what you do. The world is for collaboration. You cannot do anything alone. The traditional foes came together. Companies which were competitors came together during the COVID and gave us a vaccine. You have to connect. The world is at your fingertips. You are network enabled, neural enabled. Go out. Some of the low cost solutions have come up only because people were able to reach out and collaborate. One aircraft company wanted to reduce the cost of, reduce the weight of aircraft wing, which is attached to the body of the aircraft. It is called the adhesive and glue. They were not able to find it for 2 years. One young engineer thought, okay, let me go to the internet, and floated the idea. They got 600 responses in 2 weeks, and out of that, one was selected. And the person who did it was a 21-year-old guy who had nothing to do with aircraft engineering. That is the kind of possibility. Explore and reach out. Please document. Please document. If you want to go to a place like Goa, you want to go to the Google and see which is the best route to follow, it is because somebody documented it. Leave a legacy so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel. Put it down on the internet. And when you write, it gives you a lot of insights also. People can collaborate with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, you are the breakthrough. All you have to do is to show up. I have achieved breakthroughs in life. And I was head of the training at Air Force Academy. You see those ladies out there with a twinkle in their eyes? They actually today are making breakthroughs wherever they are. I have made a breakthrough through them. And I hope I can see some of the twinkle in your eyes. I can already see them in the darkness. Thank you.